Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Obscure Arc. We're here to talk about another lovely slice of life anime with a bit of a different twist. We're here to talk about our shared watch of the month, Girls Last Tour. And this has been on my list, and I think on your list, for a very long time. So I was very excited to watch this show. I have different feelings now, but it's a very interesting, almost like artifact of anime. Like, it's not that old, right? But I think especially the fan base that has formed around this show made me so intrigued as to what all the hype was about. And
Yeah.
so,
Yeah, it's you definitely like if you're into anime enough, you definitely hear about this show more than once from multiple people.
you have that one friend who's like really into Girls Last Tour.
Yeah, like it's obviously we'll break down what we think about it later on, but it's out there. It's well known within its niche of slice of life slash post-apocalypto kind of things, but
A really weird crossover, but a crossover nonetheless.
yeah, so we'll talk about those details. Before we get to those details, let's do a quick production breakdown for the show. So, Girls Last Tour, it's made by Studio White Fox, and the anime itself came out in fall 2017. So, it's a relatively aged show, I guess, kind of.
It's weird to say it's closing in on 10 years.
Yeah.
But it is.
Yeah, it's almost a decade, y'all. Time passes quickly. The studio, as other shows that are like Steins Gate, ReZero, Akamega Kill, The Devil's a Part Timer, Goblin Slayer, which I'd argue almost all are really popular among people.
Oh, yeah. White Fox is like a relatively. They're not known as a studio, but they do really big shows.
Yeah, so
But nothing like Girls Last Tour, which is weird. It's why it's so weird to see all of these line up with
That-
Girls Last Tour. Then
exactly.
as
Like
the context.
Girls Last Tour, I'd argue is their least popular, yet has a really like core, like fanatic view base. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, it's from them. So going down the line, it's produced by ATX Shinchosha. Sorry if I butchered that name. Kadokawa Media House and Kadokawa. It's licensed by Sentai Filmworks, and it's based on a manga. So this is again another anime adaptation of a manga.
Specifically a web manga.
Exactly, a web manga that has 47 chapters and 6 volumes. So not the longest one.
And I've read we'll talk about it when we get to the anime, but I've read the manga as in I've read the parts of it that we're missing out. I know for a fact that the anime skipped a little bit in the manga. Not a ton, but a little bit. And these are really short chapters. Like honestly, if you watch this and then you want to finish the web manga after this, it takes maybe 30 minutes at most. Like 30 minutes is generous. It's a really short manga in terms of the chapters are maybe 12 to 20 pages, depending on what the chapter is, and they're very low dialogue. So
yeah, that's a quick thing you can do after you see the ending. But the author is Tsukumizu, and they've done 2 more works, which is Flan Wants to Die and Shimeji Simulation. They also did a quick spin-off with Girls Last Tour, which is called Girls Last Class. And it's one of those classic super short like chibi spin-offs.
yeah, you see these in like back on like traditional TV. You'll see these in like the 1 minute like when they split up a commercial section up a bit more. You'll see these like 1 minute commercial type things kind of thrown in there sometimes. I will say, if you look at Shimeji Simulation, the characters are just Chito and Yuri.
Nice.
So if you look at it, they're really just the same characters. So it's more or less striking on the same gold that they were going with.
Yeah, gotcha. Valid. Yeah. Hey, if it works,
If it works, it works.
For the sound director, we got Jin Ategawa, which
The goat.
one
of the goats.
We've talked about him before, and you'll very quickly realize on what show we talked about him, but he did anime like No Game, No Life, Your Lie in April, Kaguya-sama, everyone's favorite anime ever, Food Wars, Doctors, Dr. Stone 86, where we talked about him on top of Horimiya, where we talked about him again.
Yeah, pretty
So
legendary dude.
my guy does some great work out there. It's pretty good with his stuff.
He's one of a
And
few.
exactly. And for what we have in this anime in terms of sound, I feel like he still did his due diligence and like made a pretty good job.
I mean, the demands of the show is not 86, right? Like,
Yeah,
the sound
exactly.
is important. Don't get me wrong. Sound very, very important. But like, 86 is like, we need multiple sounds at the same time for
Yeah,
like
yeah.
5 minutes straight, right?
It's
And
a
that's like,
much layered process.
yeah, much more thoughtful decisions have to be made about specific things that are
Yeah,
like complicated. Well, yeah, less thoughtful, more complicated. Whereas this is
yeah,
more thoughtful, and specifically for Girls Last Tour, like, what are we choosing to include, right?
yeah. It's still there.
Oh
As
yeah,
in, like what he does serves its purpose, and it's nice. It's good quality, you know. But also, there's so much you can go with a show like this. And I'll talk a bit more about this later on. Why there's a bit of a limitation, but yeah, it's still good. It's our guy, so he knows what he's doing. Music is done by Kenichiro Suehiro. He did other animes like ReZero, Fire Force, Goblin Slayer, The Eminence in Shadow, Cells at Work, Golden Kamuy Undead Unluck. Again, almost all of these are like big hitters. They've become very popular in one way or another in the anime realm. And I, for one, uh, having watched multiple of these shows, actually do enjoy his musical work. So it's pretty solid
weirdly
up
enough,
there.
I'm not that familiar with his work outside of ReZero. Like, and I've not even seen all of ReZero, so I'm shockingly not that familiar with his stuff.
Okay, got you. Yeah, for me, I've seen a little bit of Cells at Work. I like what it is. Fire Force, I've watched. I like musics on that show. They get the hype feeling
Fire
pretty
Force is
good.
weird. They have a great production,
Yeah,
and then it's Fire Force.
yeah, no, valid. But yeah, their production quality is good, and like music is one of
Yeah,
like a part of it. Golden Kamuy, I enjoy it. I'm behind on the seasons right now, but as far as I've watched, which is season 3, um, I still like it. So, and The Eminence Shadow somehow become the most popular anime in existence at some point.
one of the most popular isekais.
Yeah, like I don't know why
Great
y'all
question.
like big questions here in my head too. Like, don't get me wrong, and people will probably butcher me for saying this. I read a lot of and I watch a lot of trash manga/anime, and for me, The Eminence in Shadow was one of those. So,
It doesn't really stick out of
yeah,
the trash, which is why I'm confused.
and people are losing their shit over this. I guess it's funny, so you know. Anyways, going down the line, it's directed by Takaharu Ozaki. He did Goblin Slayer, Wave, Let's Go Surfing, Bastard Heavy Metal Surfing. He also did storyboarding role for ReZero, Steins Gate Zero, Carol and Tuesday, and key animation role for One Punch Man.
Yeah, you'll notice with a lot of these roles, besides maybe a lot of these people are really much just in the White Fox, like either specifically working for White Fox or in the White Fox like adjacent
Yeah,
groups. Like a lot of people who work in studios will like just because you have a studio does not mean all of your team is working on one production. Like you have teams in studios, as well as also
exactly.
you hire freelancers or people who are like adjacent studio. Like you sometimes will have like cooperating studios or
Yeah,
subsidiaries or something, and like you'll see a lot of these people are still within like the White House or the White Fox like
environment,
network.
yeah,
So
network, yeah. But yeah, and last but not least, this is a interesting one in
yeah,
terms of watching.
about that, yeah.
Because in certain regions you can watch it on Amazon Prime, like Canada, and in other most regions, because world is surprise surprise not made just from Canada's land. Um,
Good.
yeah, it's you can't watch it. So What you can do is use any legal means necessary
Use a VPN. That's legal.
and watch this show however you like.
Listen, I'll say this: there has become an increasingly large problem in the anime industry, related to licensing and distribution. It's been really big. One of the things that I don't know if I mentioned this to you, but it's a really big problem. Is, for example, something like 86, very well doing show. Maybe not the biggest, like it's not like as big as like a shonen per se,
Yeah.
but a very show that's beloved, doing well.
Respectively.
Yeah, it has a very big
yeah.
audience still. Like, not the biggest audience, but like a very big audience. Well, like is taken off Crunchyroll now because with Aniplex, their license ran out. And so they don't want to renew it. And I don't know if a season 2 is on the horizon or not, but it seems like, I guess not. So they didn't want to renew their license after 5 years, and it's now off. Fun fact, after that happened, every single Blu-ray copy in America sold out, like from every fucking distributor, which I guess is a good thing for them. And maybe, but it's still, at the end of the day, it is harder. We are losing media. Like, that has been a problem with anime.
Yeah.
Especially when you get caught up in these more complicated distribution and like releasing rights situations where it's like one company did the licensing, the other company did, or one company did licensing, the other company did distribution, but now they can do both. And it's a really awkward thing of like, oh, how do we do this? Like, it becomes very weird. And yeah, there's a lot of lost media, and Girls Last Tour kind of falls into that place. Like, usually you see this really old or like anime that is about 10 years old. Like, these are two like where you see it a lot of, where it's like these are not the most popular ones and they don't get renewed or shit like that.
Yeah.
And so it's really sad to see. Like, Girls Last Tour, I don't think, if there is a Blu-ray copy, it's not very well known or very well like circulated per se. Like, I don't think
probably where like it's not mass produced.
Yeah, it's probably not being produced anymore. That's like the big thing. And so like there is no legal way to watch these, and like happens to a ton of anime, and there's a ginormous problem in our industry. And it sucks. And I could talk more about the details of it, but I don't really want to. But just know that you will run into many truly great shows like this, and so don't feel obligated to only watch what is on your streaming services. Like, I think anime specifically is. There's plenty of like older like 2000 movies that fall in the same realm, but I would say I encourage you to explore the stuff that does not just get only on your streaming service, because those are curated.
Yeah, for sure.
And so you will see many great things that are not in places like that. Like, another show I can think of is like, I think Serial Experiments Lane is like from 1995 and is absolutely not on anything right now. So,
No,
I mean, maybe it's on, maybe it got picked up again, but for a lot of the times it's like, even if it's not, maybe it ends up back on a streaming service, but the fact that there's even a period of time where you can't watch it legally is always, it's crazy to me, right? It is crazy to me that this happens to some pieces of media, but
that's why we have totally legal other means to watch.
Yeah, if y'all, I will say, after the great purging of things that let you watch anime, I did find my news sources, and they're actually pretty good. I'm happy I found my news sources.
Okay.
But anyways, to talk about Girls Last Tour. In a post-apocalyptic world potentially destroyed by nukes, robots, starvation, or all of the above, a world where weather and the levels of civilization no longer make sense, Girls Last Tour asks one question. What if it were Chibi? Chi and Yu's journey throughout the post-apocalyptic wasteland balances a silliness as well as a seriousness that, while enjoyable, does have a lot of empty spaces in it, and does leave a lot of empty space on my plate, which I think is intentional, but maybe not my cup of tea. The ambiguous post-apocalyptic setting of Girls Last Tour reeks of post-World War II stuff, but shockingly, it really doesn't delve into it all too much, and I don't think it's really that interested in doing it. The art and production of Girls Last Tour is, like I mentioned, chibi. We've not necessarily covered a show that is exclusively or primarily chibi before, but if you're unfamiliar with chibi, it's a lot of tiny characters, round faces, big eyes. To be clear, this is not like a full like traditional chibi show, but it has a lot of the chibi elements that I would be very hesitant to say this is not chibi. It looks chibi and it performs chibi.
Madoka Magica? You all know the art style.
Yeah. It performs chibi like storytelling and functions and humor and mechanisms and all that type of stuff that I think it's impossible to not talk about a chibi show. And yeah, it's like
or Made in Abyss too. Like
it's very similar to Made in Abyss as well, but it's like one of the things about chibi, and this is kind of, I mean, people don't think about it, is like usually covers very specific topics and or very specific fun and vibes. Yeah. And the whole thing about Girls Last Tour is it has this chibi and specific art style that then clashes with the post-apocalyptic like setting that we're in, and constantly dealing with the post-apocalyptic situations they're in and kind of how that vibe interfaces with a very dire situation. It's very Ikuhara, as in when I say Ikuhara, I mean the creator of Moaru Penguin as well as Revolutionary Girl Utena, where but Ikuhara is more interested in kawaii, and kawaii is a little different from Chibi, whereas like kawaii is like ubu, cute, like, magical girl shoujo type thing, which is similar to Chibi, not always Chibi, but yeah, it's like how that clashes with then serious storytelling. And I think this show presents that topic and deals with it a little bit, right? I think part of this show is a kind of about the finding hope and hopelessness, and it really leans on the hope side, right?
Yeah.
And I do appreciate that, but it really heavily follows the, how do we make the best out of a bad situation and present some relatively messed up things in a very positive light, like in a very like, oh, interesting. That's like, it doesn't really ever go to the other side of the coin, which I find interesting because usually with these shows, I would talk about dichotomy a ton, but it rarely ever wants to make you feel bad, which I think is a very interesting way of posing this type of show because
Yuri doesn't care.
that's definitely part of it. But like the thing is, like when I heard about the show, and people are so fanatic about it, I assumed it was because it's got some crazy balance between light and dark and like kind of the depression it deals with. But most of what this show is there is undertones of these things, like very deep undertones of these things, but it is primarily about the light of like, having another person in your life and the way we explore the world and
being
all that
able
jazz.
to eat food,
Food's a big thing. And
being
I'm
able
glad.
to somehow afford world traverse better than our age and day right now, even though it's post-apocalypto. Yeah, interesting things.
I mean, I'm curious what you thought about the show, because for me, I have very not complicated but unsorted feelings about this show, right? Like I think that's one of the things that's really present in my mind, is that there's not a ton that I like feel strongly about with this show, but I don't necessarily have it all sorted out in my head.
Yeah, for me, let's get the obvious out of the way first. This is a cozy show. In a way, it's a feel-good show again. Which almost all 3 shows this month has been like that, which is,
We
I guess-
really needed a break from Evangelion. Like we really needed a break from Evangelion.
Yeah, I guess so. So, you could wait to watch this anime till winter, and when winter arrives, grab a hot cocoa and just watch it. But
Oh yeah.
with that being said, I obviously had positive bias towards this show because I've heard about it from multiple of my friends, and I had it in my list for a while now. And I feel like this is a relatively like common show to pop up if you dig deep enough in the anime realm. Where
like when people tell you the hidden gem, this is one of the first 10 probably.
Yeah. So in that regards, like we inevitably both went into this with like certain expectations for sure. I enjoyed it, but there's always the but. Did I lose my mind over it, or like was I like, oh my god, like
Typing up the 20,000 word blog post about it?
yeah,
type
I'm
stuff.
like, this is such a good, like, I'm not gonna lie, and probably there's gonna be a lot of people who will hard disagree with me. When I watched Made in Abyss's first season, I was struck more.
To be fair, with how Made in Abyss is, I've only seen season 1 of Made in Abyss. Made in Abyss's first season, the ending of it is very stark.
Yeah.
It leaves a very strong image in your mind. Like,
So in that regards, and is this show plays to be in that range? I don't think. Like, I think not. Like, I don't think. I just made in Abyss an example because they share a similar art style
and some storytelling
in somewhat
stuff.
of a similar storytelling and like world building, flavor. But I also know that this show is actively trying to be easy on the palate.
Yeah.
Let's put it that way. And I enjoy that. I'm not one of those people who feels the urge to watch an anime or watch animes only when they give you like a hard punch in the stomach and like it's either like a big oomph effect or no anime. I just suggested we watch Kotaro Lives Alone
Yeah.
for this month. Like I enjoy these type of animes, but it's again the expectations from feedback we got from other people and the end result we got matching exactly or not. Not even like saying good or bad, but like if it's matching exactly or not. And for me, it did not necessarily match with how hyped it was from those people, but I still enjoyed it.
The thing is, I got very ambiguous recommendations on this show, so I had no idea exactly what I was going
Yeah.
into. I knew about the chibi art style and I knew all that, but I wasn't sure how it was going to play with that, or if it was going to be psychological or crazy. I've seen, crazy
Like
shows.
for me, when I see chibi art style, I'm like, someone's dying.
It can
and
be that way.
someone
For
is
sure.
suffering.
Yeah, like there's definitely a ton of chibi shows that do that kind of realm stuff, but like, there's a lot of shows that don't do that. And so I was like, oh, this show is very, very good at the type of show that is very relaxing, easy to watch, while
Yeah.
also it's about hopefulness in dark places, right? And it's about the connection between Chi and you. Like that's a big part of the show.
The show is entirely that light at the end of the tunnel. Like,
That's a big thing. Is it is. If you hear me on the podcast, I talk a lot about dichotomy. This show is really leaning on the light side of the dichotomy, like
Yeah.
almost to the point where there is no dichotomy, right? I think there are moments where it goes to the other side, but I think it's very rare. And I understand why people want to watch this type of show. It's very refreshing. It's very enjoyable. And I think that if you like shows like this and like the very, I call it dumbass girl humor, this show has got great dumbass girl humor. I would say it's not necessarily like my speed of dumbass girl humor is Bocchi the Rock, right? I love Bocchi the Rock. Like to make it clear, like I don't need shows that do something wholly wild and crazy, because like I've recommended shows like Bocchi the Rock or like Horimiya or like even like Kaguya-sama. Do I enjoy it that those shows have like another side to them? I do. But I don't necessarily need it if it's enjoyable enough without that. And I think part of it is that I don't have a bias towards the chibi style, and I don't have like a big connection to it. And so like for example, like I couldn't get through Nichijou, and that's partially because of the show was solely dumbass girl humor and also just like not my vibe, and it was fragmented, and a lot of things didn't really match up with my speed, even though the show was probably objectively pretty good. I think for me this fits a lot better than that, but I ultimately like I'm like, wow, this is not what I was expecting, and I expected like a big masterpiece type thing. And the biggest thing that I want to highlight is that there's a lot of empty spaces in the show that are intentional, but as a storyteller, I fundamentally disagree with leaving too many empty spaces. I think empty spaces, when used intentionally, make sense, but I think it uses a lot of empty spaces to fill gaps that make you question things. And if you really like filling those gaps, this is a show for you. I like filling the gaps occasionally, or when it makes sense, or when it's been set up so well that it feels natural. Whereas for me, the show defaults to making you fill the gap, and I don't really enjoy that type of storytelling. Like I think to me, that's like not how I enjoy consuming my media. Like I think one of the things that's so weird about this show to me is it's super character focused, despite the characters not being that active. Because I say that isn't like the atmosphere. There is atmosphere, and I think the background art is really great, and I think that the details that are involved are good. But ultimately, we are not interfacing and interacting with these backgrounds and things that much, except when they come up real close to our face. Like I don't think there's a lot of like background storytelling. Like I struggle to not compare this to Nier Automata. Mind you, Nier Automata is very much on the other side of the coin. It still has light, but very much a darker, sadder, depressing atmospheric storytelling about post-apocalyptic. But for me, one of the big things is that I really wish that the atmosphere played a bigger role in the relationship between Chi and you, and then kind of the characters they interact with. Like I think the biggest disappointment for me is the characters they interact with don't pull out as much as I would like, as well as also I think the situations they're in really dip their toes at best, right? And I think that's the biggest thing for me.
Yeah, I feel like throughout the story we interact with like very few characters anyway.
It's literally Kanazawa, Ishii, and the fishing robot, and then the cats, or
are my favorite characters.
yeah, cat type thing, whatever you want, whatever your translation called it.
Kedo, but yeah, I'm trying to think about all the character stories here. Like for example, really early on, expectation. No, not expectation. A really early on interaction is Kanazawa.
Mm-hmm.
And when they're interacting with Kanazawa, you you know, it's the first person they've encountered for however many years, who knows. It's another human being, not even just like a random living being. It's another human being. And for all they knew, up to that point, they were the last two people on Earth. So you, from the get go, expect a much more detailed arc. I'm gonna call it with that character, as in it might be getting to know that character. It might be getting to know his like structure of a relationship that he'll build with the main characters over here. Like it's you're just expecting more because it's again like these gals, for all we know, like we start the story of them been wandering in this post-apocalyptic world with a vehicle for who knows how long, just the two of them. So you're like, oh, okay, like something's gonna happen. And I'm straight going into spoilers here because I don't feel like there's a way to talk around this
No, not
anime
really.
without any spoilers. Like they go to an elevator for like a joint destination thing, kind of breaks, kind of doesn't break, and then he's like, okay, like y'all take care now, and like gives them a camera, and then he just leaves.
My biggest problem with that. Okay, so first of all, having characters like that is fine.
It is
And I think my problem is that they don't leave an imprint or they don't give a good reason why they exist other than it's like a nice memory, whatever.
or a plot device.
Yeah, but like he like just barely before it talks about the importance of his maps to him, and then on the elevator ride up, like fucking 6 minutes later, loses his maps, and I'm like, it's a on the nose thing, you know? That's my thing. I was like,
Yeah,
oh,
I would be surprised more if he actually held on to those.
or yeah, I kind of feel like I wish there was some delving into kind of his purpose in life afterwards, or kind of maybe like the big thing about Chi and Yu is that Yu especially, but Chi a little, they a lot of their experiences kind of bounce off of them, you know. And I think
Yeah.
part of it is that they're in their own little world, and that's the valuable and important thing is that they're able to these things bounce off of them because they only need each other and they're going to survive and they're going to face these hardships. And I get that part of it. That's not a like going over my head, but I do think that it should leave some level of imprint and then they push it off, right? Or they're able to deal with. I think these bounce off a little too easily for my taste. Like another one of the things with Ishii is like they almost like laugh at Ishii for like attempting to fly or like like at least Yu does. And I think also like it's not like a thing that really builds into their values or what they care about or anything.
Yeah.
Like, I don't necessarily need all of that, but at the same time, I'm like, what's the point other than feeling good and like it's a nice memory? Like, I don't understand what the point of some of the scenes are. Like, I think the scene that sticks out the most and makes the most sense is the scene at the aquarium, where it's like,
That's nice, yeah.
it's not only affecting them a little bit and like, it makes them question their food choices and the things that robots and people care about and value and yada, 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 but it also is like the thing about like, it talks about like reconstruction and destruction and the things that, the world and technology can truly value after a war and the things we can hold on to. And that clearly left an implant on them. But I think for the rest of the show, a lot of these things are just very much, again, I'm going to use the term fragmented. And I think that's fine. And I think as a like structurally type of show, but I think those type of shows always have a ceiling to me personally of what they're going to be able to achieve an effect on me, where I think this is a show that is great to watch casually, and it's a nice 12 little episode watch that is a good way of enjoying your time, but ultimately doesn't necessarily spark inspiration in me in any regard, right? I think it is a very feel good, like I was talking to you about this, where if you rate the show with a demerit system, you rate it very highly. It doesn't necessarily do anything wrong, but I would questions like, oh, maybe you could do this slightly better or do this slightly differently. But if you rate the show on a merit system, it's hard for me to give points on a ton of things, right? I think the things that it does, it's very specific on it that it does well in that regard, but it's not interested in doing much else, which maybe this is my selfishness then, but I think I would have at least liked to seen Chi and Yu evolve a little bit if the show chose to be character focused, which it kind of did. So
yeah, for me, I kind of agree on that sense. It's nice. I enjoyed it. It's also refreshing to see like a anime that's in a post-apocalyptic world, but let's put a counter whenever we say post-apocalyptic world here.
Please don't.
But editor Jared, you got this.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, so it's kind of sad, not sad. It's kind of refreshing to see like a positive approach to everything they got going in that world within this situation. And for a change, they're not like dreadful and like, oh, like we're gonna, they enjoy their time and they have their fun and they kind of explore. And as long as they have food and water,
Food is a big thing.
yeah, they're good, uh, with all that though, I enjoyed that part. Like I'm not gonna lie, I enjoyed it. It's nice. It's cool. Um, campfire, s'mores kind of vibes, but also like nothing that much. Like for example, I do want to get this out of the way. If I was Chito, like I would smack Yuri much much more.
I just
Like,
want you to know that, like, in complete transparency, in our relationship, I'm Chito and you're Yuri. And I hate to tell you that. I'm so sorry.
and everyone who knows me knows that's a lie, but I'll just accept that because he wants to live in
In
that
our
reality.
dynamic, brother.
Yeah, I'm. Well, then I should maybe pull a gun on you.
Yeah, maybe that's the case.
Like, maybe that's the change I need to become an actual Yuri. Um, but yeah, like in our dynamic, I'm Neko, by the way.
Closer to it, probably.
Let's go.
Eating a bullet randomly.
Yeah, exactly. Eating some food randomly. Listening to radio, following sound. Hey,
Yeah.
like that's the dude takes signals. I deal with signals.
Yeah.
Doesn't get better than that. Jokes aside, for example, one of the first things I just mentioned, Yuri pulling a gun on Chito for a goddamn like biscuit.
Yeah.
I'm like, dude, come like stuff like that.
Like, we know it's a joke, but
It's not. It's unnecessary. It doesn't add anything to the story. It's like you could argue that like she shows Chito that she also needs to hold on to a gun of any sorts because like you never know. But then also the same gal just doesn't wear a helmet
yeah.
and like questions Chito wearing a helmet, and then fucking buildings start collapsing on him, and she's like, oh, okay, yeah, that makes sense. So it's the dynamic when it gets this aggressive out of nowhere, out of pocket. It feels out of pocket.
For me, one of the things is there are really interesting small passive storytelling things that are like, one of the things is like, there's a time where she feels a bit hopeless. I can't remember exactly which episode it is, but like there's definitely that feeling of hopelessness that's involved.
When
not
Ishi falls.
and not the episode related to them talking about hopelessness, but there's an episode where like she's like, I don't know why we live, right? And like you can kind of see the small methods of how they're coping with that existential dread of like, why do we keep pushing forward and living and doing all this stuff? And I think that's interesting. My problem is they don't revisit this topic and they don't find ways of expounding upon it or coming at it from different angles. It's just kind of, oh, it's there. And I think it's really subtle and really, really nice in that regard. Another one of the things is that when like, there's a time when Yuri throws the book in the fire, and then like she is mad at her, and it's
Dude,
kind of
I
like,
would do a flying kick to the head, by the way.
no, but like I understand. Obviously, Yuri's a dumbass and low key just an illiterate child who has no clue what societal norms are.
It was
But
like, don't get me wrong. I'm just like, me and books.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
I'm
yeah.
like,
no, I get it, but at the same time, it's like dumbass child who doesn't understand anything. Like I get
Yeah.
it, but like at the same time, I do think there's an interesting dynamic of like kind of like disagreeing with someone who's like your only person in the world, and kind of like how that awkward you have to make up with them whether you like it or not. But how do you go about that? Like I do think there are interesting minutia there. However, my big thing is that they don't ever come back to these things in a lot of ways, or if they do, it's really the same way and not expounding upon itself. And that's the part that the show loses me a little bit, and I think is a bit not my style and not how I would
Yeah.
go about these things. Like I think that this show really heavily leans on subtlety and positivity are the primary functions, and everything else is almost wrong for their type of storytelling, which I don't agree with as a storyteller, but at least they chose a stance, and I think that's gonna
Yeah.
that's why you're gonna have very fanatic fans about it, is because people who believe in those things and their ways of storytelling are going to love it for that. But for me, I disagree with that, and I disagree relatively clearly on it. And I just struggle to. I think the biggest thing is I struggle to hold on to this show more than a couple episodes at a time. I watched this show maybe one episode at a time until I kind of needed to crunch it near the end. But this show was really hard for me to continuously watch because I think it was like, oh, it's a good vibe, but I kind of know what I'm going to get next episode. It's not going to change enough,
Yeah.
as well as also, like, it's not formulaic per se, but it is very much the same vibe every episode, and you're not challenged in any of those episodes. So I think that was the big thing for me that made me go, okay, I probably need to consume this a little slowly for me to enjoy it, for my enjoyment, I guess.
Yeah. For me, I did not necessarily have a problem in regards to like pacing how I watch it. Like, I think I watched this thing in like a day or two. Like,
But you're also more of a binger than I am. So.
yeah, I'm a really big binger when it comes to like shorter shows. But yeah, like it's smooth. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah, it is smooth.
It's smooth. It like the way it follows the pace, like the whole pacing of the show, like it makes sense. It doesn't feel rushed or whatever. And I did enjoy like some musical and sound related themes and hints throughout the show, which is always like welcome on my end. But the portion you mentioned where if you're stuck with mostly only a single person for a period of time, which for them this is like as long as they can imagine basically, and then also probably as long as they could remember because they've been childhood friends way before the apocalypse, um, you're expecting more character development. Like, there's no way you're not expecting that. But similar things keep happening, where in certain moments you get these nice like pockets where they become each other's like supporting column,
Yeah.
and it actually like feels nice to see those scenes. Like they actually in a way make each other work as a function as humans to their fullest. And if they were like two separate individuals, they wouldn't be able to function that way. So in that regards, it's really nice. But also then on a again more individual level, they're not necessarily progressing as people.
Sure.
They keep supporting each other, but they don't personally progress, which is like they do a little bit, but nothing crazy. And I give most of Yuri's actions as an example for this. Like, um, coming from how early we start to see some over the top jokes or things she does, like we truly don't get rid of that behavior uh, up till the very end, and I doubt it gets resolved on the actual manga ending as well. So
I will say, so like, for example, one of the themes that they go about, not related to characters, that interesting is they talk about like, a lot of the things they find are weapons, right? And there's like,
Yeah.
oh, these are the things that were preserved, the time, the things people cared about, and like the nature of war. And yes, there is World War II themes, shockingly, but not as present as I thought. And so I thought, oh, that's really cool and interesting, but it kind of constantly revisits them on the same note. The big thing for me with both the characters and the themes is that this show gives you very entry level topics to dig into with not a ton of framing.
yeah,
And if you yourself find value in almost filling in those gaps from the little framing that it is, and kind of using the story as a foundation and you exploring it for your own personal gain
exactly.
and like your own personal feelings, then you'll enjoy this show. But for me, I personally like shows that lead me towards something specific that I wouldn't think of, that I can't imagine
Yeah.
myself, and force me and put me in a framework that is like challenging myself or going to evolve and change and make me grow with it, or do something like that. Whereas I think the show is very much hitting the same note over and over again, and you're kind of those differences in the notes is enough for you, despite it being kind of the same note, right? It's like a different tone, I guess.
The question is certainly asked and not explored.
Yeah, which I think is fine for certain goals.
It's fine, and you could argue it's more philosophical within itself, like within its own being. But it also doesn't. You could argue that it's exactly what it is, but I feel like this show does not necessarily feel like a show that's intending to kind of push us towards like a more philosophical approach.
I think in comparison to Kotaro, this show is less interesting. Like it doesn't. I don't think this show hints at trying to do more per se, whereas Kotaro kind of does. And so I think that's part of the reason why I struggle to question the show a bit more, because I'm kind of like, well, I don't think it ever seemed interested in changing how it is, and it really values the coziness and the time. To give some spoilers on the ending, for specifically the anime ending, it's kind of like, oh, we have cuts, and then now we have each other, and we've always just had each other, and that's the vibe, is that we'll be together to the end of the world. In the manga ending, which again, this takes 30 minutes to read, it's very short. It is literally like them losing things, and the whole point is that at the very end, it's just those two, and they have nothing else but each other, and that's kind of the beauty of like having another human to connect with at the end of the world, and not necessarily the end of the world, but through life and whatnot, and there's a beauty in that. And I think that's fine. It's like solid messaging, but I think there's a lot of more ways to come at it from. The show doesn't want to come at different angles or evolve or progress or do something. It wants to do the same note over and over again, just maybe a little difference, but never deviating from the same beats. It needs to hit that same like note over and over again.
Like you see, I don't know, even in the anime, like at the ending, you see within the pictures, you see Kanazawa had that connection with someone before he like scattered off, giving them the photo, like the camera. Ishii goes to them and she's like, I'm really happy that like, I've encountered YouTube before like I completed this plane, because now someone else saw this, which is like undeniably a human connection and a craving. And like even like autonomous robot having that connection with the fish he's taking care of in the aquarium. Like he's like, now we can like live a bit longer. Like the robot literally says, not forever, but a bit more, like the two of us. It's like it's the same setting conveyed through either them interacting with different characters or different characters interacting with them, which in this case we have a total of 8 characters. But like you said, it is what it is. It doesn't go anything further. It doesn't do anything less than it presents to. It just does that and is happy to do it, which again, it can work. But like I said, if you would argue to me that, oh no, this is actually much more philosophical and it actually wants you to really dig into those questions within your own time, as in we do in real philosophy, then yeah, I guess, but the show doesn't make you feel that way.
It platforms it, right?
Yeah.
Like it presents the thing to you, and if you haven't explored to it, it's a good time to maybe explore it, but nothing about the show itself necessarily delves into it. Like
if you enjoy doing so, you can, but it doesn't incentivize you to do it. Like that's the biggest difference.
Like there's stuff to talk about with culture, weapons, food, like hopelessness, like human connection, like fucking CGI tanks and how they look. It looks weird and it looks okay, but it has like all of these things to it, and I'm kind of just like, ultimately that's choice, and it's never pushing it onto you. Like the thing I find fascinating about this show is
the sound.
I can't. Well, the sound is good. Don't get me wrong. The sound and music is very well placed. Like I think the production overall is great. I have zero complaints about production or art style. I enjoyed a lot.
Yeah.
Is the fan base is so weird for this show. So like when I compare this show to the few Journal with Witch fans I know, which is like, in terms of actual people I know, I think it's one. And then amongst people I see online, very few.
Yeah.
When I see people who write about Journal with Witch, they write maybe a paragraph because they know ultimately, like, you cannot describe Journal with Witch. Like, you would need to take either way too much time or you just tell people you should watch it. But when I see people write about Girls Last Tour, I see legitimately the like 10 paragraphs, like, comments, the
Mhm.
20,000 word like blog posts. And I think part of it is because there's so much room to explain things about it because the show leaves so much room and it lets you choose to explore it if you
Yeah.
want. But ultimately, my opinion as an artist is that stuff really isn't there. It is you putting it in there. And if you value art like that, then that's fine. I think that's one way you can choose to value art. I don't value art like that, and I don't use art for that mechanism. I use it for it to challenge me and present things that are not necessarily. I like art to clash with me a lot, right? Even though I've talked about liking things like Avatar: The Last Airbender, Avatar: The Last Airbender clashes and challenges me in many ways.
Yeah.
Like there are characters in it that I don't resonate with on a personal level, but resonate with on like an emotional
So
level.
you don't resonate with Toph? No.
Yeah, like Toph is a character where actually I do resonate with Toph a lot.
Yeah.
Like Sheltered Child, like I resonate with a ton. But to be clear, like I do like art that is going to challenge me from different angles and do a lot of different things. Whereas with this show, I think because it's platforming and it lets you engage with it in a very plain way, but you can almost brute force a lot of things
Yeah.
onto it. It allows you to talk about it on end. And then for me, I think for you and me, we both kind of mistaked. Oh, people are fanatic and talking about it as a masterpiece, when in reality, it is a show that is a great platform for people
Yeah.
and it allows them to explore themselves.
Which for me, I enjoy and appreciate shows like that. But like my thing is that if a show is intending to do that, like actually intending for that to happen, it should still give you that nudge. Like
Sure, yeah.
it should make you feel the intention of like, hey, my guy, like this is the platform, this is the foundation. I'm asking you these questions so you dig deep and you actually think more and more.
It's presenting even less so than Kotaro a topic more than a question.
Yeah. So because of that, like again, if you took that route on your own and that's why this show is really significant for you, I can see that being the value. But the show does not pushes that button for me where it's like, yes, I have to take this and basically solve it on my own time. I'm just like sitting there and enjoying a cozy time and that where it lends. So, it's still a really fun time. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah,
But
like I don't think
it's
the show does anything wrong. We're criticizing the direction of it
yeah.
more than anything, right?
And that's because again, people who took the action to their own hands and like made it something special for them and then what the actual show does for itself. Like any show arguably in this world, and this is at this point this is purely my own take on general approach to art and like shows and media. Anything can be like regardless of its quality or like production, value, like anything can be changing or drastically important or like philosophical for anyone. Like as in you can take the most worst show you can think in your entire life. I don't know what that would be. And it's okay for that show to be important and really life changing for someone because that's also a part of art. But as in what the show it does for itself, regardless of your personal approach to it, I don't feel like Girls Last Tour is pushing people to actually utilize that platform and dig those questions.
Right. I think you can we're kind of talking about the difference between objective and subjectivity.
Yeah.
And like we both truly know that you can never be truly objective. Like you
Yeah.
are at the end of the day one perspective. But like for example, a great thing I can use is like Naruto.
Yeah.
Naruto really really important to me. Answered a lot of questions in my life. Sasuke Uchiha, very important character. Do I know objectively Sasuke Uchiha is not a great character? Of course I know this.
You see
I don't
my
need to be
face when you
delusional
said
to myself.
that.
I don't need to lie to everyone. I do not need to pretend that that Sasuke Uchiha is a masterpiece written character. But is he incredibly important to my formative experience as a writer, storyteller, and anime enjoyer? Yes, absolutely. And he made me think about and question a lot of different things. And Naruto as a whole series did that. Can I say that Naruto is like a great series? Not great. I would say maybe good. Depends. Quality varies in a lot of spots. But like that is something where I'm aware my subjective view greatly clashes with my objective view.
Yeah.
Right. And I think this show maybe doesn't have that great of a clash for some people, but for others, like who are super fanatics, I think they refuse to address there is a subjective and like another show that I probably have a slightly where I befuddle my objective and subjective view a bit more is Haikyuu, which I truly believe Haikyuu, like at least in my mind, is a 10 out of 10. 10 out of 10, not really, but like on the par in that level, like high S tier. But also another thing that I know that is important to me when I watched and how I platformed it is it allowed me to re-explore my love for anime. It allowed me to explore my love for kineticism and emotions that I wasn't necessarily feeling at the time. And so Haikyuu is really important to me in that regard. And I definitely befuddle my emotions of subjectivity and objectivity with it. And so I think for some people, I can definitely see why the journey of Girls Last Tour for them emotionally and what they valued or what they were at that point in their life, like a lot of these anecdotes I see from people on their big blog posts or comments often start with an anecdote of where they were in their life. And they very clearly remember where they were in their life watching the show and how it was helpful for them. And that makes sense. I think this is the type of show where if you've watched in the right space of your life, it can be really impactful to you.
Yeah.
But I think the fact that the show requires that setting does say a lot about maybe what that show is doing.
Like, yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, it's a beautiful show. It's well paced and it's easy to watch. It's a smooth ride.
And I think it has good values, even if they're undersold.
It has good values, and if you actually take the initiative yourself, then it will lead to like a really good personal experience, as in like the philosophical things I was mentioning. But you have to take the initiative, and even if you not take the initiative, like I just mentioned, you'll be in for a good, like fun short ride. Like it's not a problem. But those small differences are the things we're trying to like kind of catch and evaluate certain series so that we figure out which are like the musts for basically anyone.
Yeah, I think you and myself both try to detach personal experience
Yeah.
from shows. We acknowledge our personal experiences with them, but we detach it from how we talk about them in a general setting.
And don't get us wrong, we still acknowledge that inevitably we do put our opinions on it, and like sometimes it are some things we say come from a more personal space than like a purely objective lens, but like we still try to like conversing with each other and like kind of taking opinions of other people's around us. We still try to reach to a more objective conclusion.
Right, like subjectivity is implied. Like, do I like journal with which, like, maybe bias-wise more than Emre because I'm more introverted? Probably, right? Like, we're both aware that bias exists, but talking about more or less, like, the personal experience, like, one of the things I constantly hear about is, for example, we talk about, like, a game, like, I don't know, a game that I hear about, like, is, like, Dragon Quest or Persona, like, a long JRPG.
Yeah.
And, like, someone complains about the game that they don't like, that when they get home, they're at a point in the game where they're stuck doing side quests and they don't want to be doing side quests and they need to, and they say it's like a flaw in game design. And it's like more related to like the fact that they're working a 9 to 5 and they don't have time for this game, and like they demerit the game kind of because of that. There are some people who can choose to separate their reality and not being compatible with the game, and some people who will just straight demerit the game because of that. I am criticizing the people who demerit a game based on solely, or like a game or media or anime solely based on their personal experience. Like if you were like, I was not in a good place to watch this show, I watched it anyway, it's a bad show. Like I do disagree with that. But I can't fully solely disagree with people who are like, this is not a thing that fits me and my personal, not just bias, but my experience, and therefore I'm not a big fan of it. Like that's harder for me to say because ultimately how we experience media and what we value is still subjective, right?
Yeah, it's personal.
Yeah, but like Emre and myself, we're both people who are like, we
try to get out of our way and actually break that wall.
Yeah, we take it into account for sure. Like I think part of it is that we both choose to isolate our personal experience so that we can then understand it, and then like part of it is that we're not removing our personal experience. Like I might use that phrase, but it's more so that we are trying to see what the effects of our personal experience are and isolate them. But
and
you'll
acknowledging
never You'll never do that perfectly, right? Like there will always be biases and things you don't understand. And
but like the biggest examples of like, I don't know, me having a more negative bias towards mecha in general.
Yeah.
And like kind of acknowledging that. And then whenever a mecha comes along my way, like acknowledging that, going into it and still trying to come up to that objective conclusion and like assessment of the situation.
Yeah.
And then when it's subjective, if because of my bias there are things that I didn't like, then I also, talk about those, but like still working with it.
Yeah, I mean, it can happen positively as well. Like, I know I'm someone who I can watch a very okay-ish romance anime,
Yeah.
but truly enjoy it. But no, it's not true. It's just okay-ish, and I shouldn't be recommending it to people based off my values, right? Like, I think that's something that constantly separating your values and your personal experience and kind of isolating those things as best as you can. But those things are always in context of each other still, and so you'll never be able to truly.
Yeah.
All of this to say, we did not think Girls Last Tour was a masterpiece, but we think it's very good. We've just been a big caveat as to I can absolutely understand how this show platforms someone's experience to make them enjoy it like a masterpiece. But for both of us, it did not fit that way, right? Like, I think both of us just don't consume media like that.
Yeah,
so.
like for me, again, for me to consume any media like that, it has to initiate that, which Girls Last Tour didn't.
Yeah.
It shows a platform, but does not motivate me as a person or in general the viewer to initiate it. Like, since I don't have the need right now, if I had a need for that as a person in my life within this moment, that, and on top of that, if at the same time I was able to see that this is a platform, then yes, it would change the whole approach, which we just discussed. But for now, that didn't happen for us, but it's still a nice show. I really liked it. I'd say as far as I liked it as far as, like, you know, I'd keep this show on the shelf and like just for it to be like a more, I was telling this to you, like it's almost like ambient music. Like it's not gonna be something that's gonna blow your mind every time you listen or whatever, but it kind of envelopes and like gives you that, like, depending on the genre of the music obviously, but gives you that feeling of basically walking to another space that's separate but comforting in one way or another.
You do enter a different world.
Yeah.
Like,
so
out of all the shows this month, especially.
So in that regards, like this is gonna be a show that I'll keep in my back pocket and be like, yeah, like when it comes to stuff like this is a show for that. And in that regard, it's really nice.
Yeah, for me, this is a show that lacks, in its exploration of characters and topics, it lacks specificity. These are very, like, it's in a very specific niche, don't get me wrong. But when you're in that niche, it does things very generally and not too deep. And that's fine. But the way I appreciate art is I like art to back me into a corner a bit more and to challenge me and make me think. Not always challenge, but like do things that I don't expect or, kind of delve in different ways. Like, see Journal with Witch. Like, if you would ask me like how we compared our three shows this month, it's like Journal with Witch is like an instant recommendation for like a lot of things. Kotaro Lives Alone is like a recommendation with caveats. And this is like a back of the shelf, I need to know you want something like this for me to recommend it to you.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think that this show is, like, if someone asked me, would you recommend it? Like, they asked about this show, I'd say yes.
Yeah.
But it's like this.
And for me, if I recommend it, it'd be like for this niche. Like if you're looking for this type of show, for sure.
But for me, it's like, in order for me to unprompted reach for this in the back of the shelf, I need someone to explain they want this. You know what I mean? Not that I think the show is like not good or anything, but more so that this is a show that it requires an audience to be in a specific way for it to be as enjoyable as I think it should be. Whereas like Journal with Which, I'm like, this is every audience member should watch this. Where it's Kotaro is like caveats. Certain people maybe don't want this, but with Girls Last Tour, for it to be truly at its best, it does need you to be at a certain time and place in your life of what you want out of this show, right? Like you need to be in a place where you can extract what you want out of the show.
I'd put it like this, since you just explained it that way. For something like Journal with Which, it'll probably, like, it's basically for everyone.
Timeless, classic.
You can definitely get something from it regardless. For something like Kotaro, it'll work for most people. Some people might not like it. And for Girls Last Tour, it's probably not going to work for everyone. But there is a group of people that it will work for. And for those, it's a good recommendation.
I also don't think it's less about working for everyone, but more about you need to be in the right time in your life for this.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
I think that is weirdly enough. Like, I think it could work for everyone if they're in the phase of their life that it makes sense for. or like, it's a very weird thing. Where it's both
Yeah.
phase of your life and a little bit of personal stuff.
Yeah.
So it's a very hard recommend in that regard. But again, the show is good. It's just weird because of
So
it.
basically, it's just how specific of an audience it's tailored for,
Yes.
like to bring down this whole conversation. Like that's basically what we're saying. Like this is a show that you could recommend, you could recommend for a specific type of audience,
Yeah.
and not to like basically anyone who asks you like recommend me one anime. Like, and this is not that.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that kind of brings us to the end of our discussion for Girls Last Tour. Nonetheless, again, we do kind of
We liked all of the shows this month.
yeah, we
Some
liked
more
all
than
of the
others.
shows. I kind of try to make a point whenever I feel like we sound as if we're bashing something down. I always try to make a point that like, no, we enjoyed this.
This show was fun. I
yeah.
don't know. Like, if I'm in a less serious setting with friends, it's like if I'm not doing a podcast about this show, I talk about this very differently.
Yeah, and with that being said, we kind of want to mention slight changes
Oh yeah.
of our podcast format. So I'm gonna let my co-host Jared take over for that explanation real quick.
So our format changes announcement. We are going to change up what we're doing for episodes. We are going to actually add an episode, weirdly enough. We're going to do a whole standalone episode that's for seasonal / what we're watching. Expected to be on the shorter end, like probably like 45 minutes to an hour, like nothing crazy depending on what we're doing. But we are moving to a like bi-monthly type style. So to give an example of what we're doing for next month and how we'll be moving forward, next month, the episode after this will be our seasonal / what we've been watching, which will release in early July. After that, we will have a show in later July that is my first watch, which I will announce now is I Want to Eat Your Pancreas, which is a lovely movie, one of my favorite movies of anime movies of all time. Like, it really is a unique experience. The month after, in August, early August, we will be going over Emre's fourth watch, which is Death Parade, which is a show that I've shockingly not seen, but that's usually how it is with your forced watches, that I've shockingly not seen these shows. And then in the end of August, we'll be doing our shared watch of Kids on the Slope. So we are doing kind of a bi-monthly thing, so it's 4 episodes over 2 months or 2 episodes per month, but it's like a cycle of every 2 months, right? So you'll have a seasonal / what we've been watching, and then my watch, and then Emre's and shared watch, and then a new cycle will begin after 2 months. So it'll be on screen, it'll be a nicer graphic, blah, blah, blah. But all you really need to know is we're kind of slowing it down because I think Emre and myself kind of both felt it, where we're watching things a little bit more out of obligation nowadays, and it's kind of hard to keep up.
Yeah.
And also part of this is to open up us to be able to watch seasonals a little bit easier and watch things we've been having on our list for a long time.
It's basically personal time management on top of like, we do want to keep the enthusiasm going. And when you start doing this stuff purely out of obligation, that's usually a harder element to like, keep the Kindle alive for, I guess. So this change is basically, I feel like it's not necessarily taking out of what we're providing for the media, but also allowing us to kind of refresh ourselves and just kind of keep providing on a similar manner that's more manageable in the long run.
Yeah, I think it will keep the excitement up to be able to, like, as opposed to being like, oh God, we have to meet this deadline for both not only doing the show, but watching everything, doing the editing, getting all of that organized between us two. Like, it just takes a long time. It takes a lot of time out of our month.
Yeah.
That I think it starts to feel more obligation-wise when ultimately this is something that I want to enjoy. And
Yeah,
I do
'cause-
enjoy it still, but it is like the details of it get tedious sometimes.
Yeah.
Of like, even watching the show sometimes where I'm just like, I'm not in the mood to watch a show that is not absolutely of my choosing, right? Like,
Yeah.
just because the me of a month ago said I want to watch this does not mean the me of now wants to watch this, right?
Yeah.
I think being able to have a little bit more of that freedom will help. We'll see how this feels. I could see us changing things up still going forward, but I do.
Because mind you, we do have a life outside of this
Shockingly, we
podcast.
do,
You know,
yeah.
it's like
We do. I know I talk about anime a ton, but yes, it is not my only personality trait. But yeah, that is what our plans are going forward. As I mentioned, to reiterate what our shows are for next month, it is our seasonal / what we've been watching. I'm definitely going to catch up on seasonals. That's like one of the goals of doing this change is catching up on seasonals.
Also, yeah.
I Want to Eat Your Pancreas will be the next, which is my first watch. Emery will be going over Death Parade, and our shared watch will be Kids on the Slope. Again, this will be spread over July and August. So, yeah.
Well, with that, see you all later and hope you'll enjoy the new type of episode plus the classics coming up after this.
Watch Journal with Witch. Okay. Bye,
Take
everyone.
care.